Hello everybody, this is Kirby over yonder, and there's a certain popular cartoon that I've kinda neglected to talk about. No, not that one. No, not that either. Okay, now you're just trolling me. Ah, there we go. Samurai Jack. I recently binge-watched the whole series, and I liked it. The action is really well animated, the backgrounds are gorgeous to look at, the show makes great usage of silence and atmosphere, Jack and Aku are both fantastic characters, and it's a really cool concept. A samurai who's flown into the future where everything's conquered by his worst enemy and trying to get back to the past, that is a really cool concept for a show. We don't really have anything quite like it. Sure, we have Futurama, but that show's a lot more focused on comedy than storytelling. Though the main problem I had with the show, at least in its first 4 seasons, was that it wasn't as story-focused as I thought it would be. Like, each episode tells its own story, but it never feels like it's building a greater narrative. It's not like in each episode Jack gets closer and closer to being able to go back to the past or anything. You can pretty much watch any episode from the first 4 seasons out of context and completely understand what's going on. This is kind of why it took me a long time to get through the series, because each episode just felt like it would keep resetting itself. Nothing really changes that much. Besides the Scotsman, that guy's great. But because of that, it felt like there were certain episodes that were really good, and then just kind of episodes that are whatever. Like, they didn't really need to be there and were just kind of boring. Don't get me wrong, the series is still great overall. I just don't recommend watching the entire thing in order. Just watch what people consider to be the best episodes from the first 4 seasons, and then watch Season 5. Speaking of Season 5, that season did some things differently. Season 5 was a lot more story-heavy, where every episode contributed to a larger narrative, thus making it more similar to Gravity Falls or the later seasons of Adventure Time. Also, the show being on Adult Swim allowed it to have more brutal gore and violence, as well as explicitly show Jack's guilt and depression. These factors made the show a lot more engaging to me, and because of that, I think I would call Season 5 my favorite season. Until the ending. Yep, it just so happens that Samurai Jack has the worst finale to any cartoon I've ever seen. And right here, I'm going to dive into why. This episode starts out with, and I'm not kidding, 3 whole minutes of characters walking. It adds absolutely nothing to the plot and could have been cut out entirely. The fact that we get to see the old intro again is pretty cool, but they could have just opened with that. We didn't need 3 minutes of characters walking. And imagine how cool that would be if the episode just started out with this classic intro. Oh, and trust me, there are certainly better things those 3 minutes could have gone to. But instead, all we get is a bunch of cheap walk cycles. Samurai Jack betrayed us. So after that, Aku gives his presentation on how he finally captured the samurai and is ready to kill him. Except, uh-oh, he doesn't know which weapon to kill him with. I get that being a comedic villain is a part of Aku's character, but this is just way too much. Aku should be at his most menacing in this episode, but scenes like this just make him seem pathetic. It makes it so I can't take him seriously as a threat at all. While this is happening, Jack is telling Ashi to fight and not to give in and to break free and that he knows she's in there. And like, I get that Jack doesn't talk much, but usually when he does, he's a lot more insightful than this. This is just cliche and bad dialogue. But finally, Aku chooses Ashi to kill Jack. But before that can happen, all of Jack's friends come by to attack, in quotes, Aku. And this scene is really dumb. Like, it's played off as super triumphant with grand music playing in the background, but they are literally doing nothing. None of their attacks actually hurt Aku. All they really do is distract him. Like, it's cool that you brought back a bunch of characters from classic episodes, But they don't do anything here, they're literally just fan service. And Aku is basically just a brick wall. Meanwhile, Jack is fighting Ashi, who is basically just turned into a big blob of darkness. Then, the Scotsman comes back, and unlike the rest of the returning characters, he actually does something to help stop Aku. I actually liked the gag where he listed off all of his daughters. It was pretty funny and a nice callback to his first appearance. Though I wasn't a big fan of the gag where he tells Jack to take his pick. And this is the last time we ever get to see him. Jack never gets a proper goodbye to him, which is such a big disservice to a great character. Oh, and guys, prepare yourselves for this next scene, because this next scene... oh boy, is it wonderful. Okay, so Jack becomes, like, absorbed by Ashi or something, and sees that Ashi is losing the tiny little bit of control she has left. So then, Jack says, "I love you," and that's what sets Ashi free. I'm gonna be honest here, I groan every time I watch this scene. It's like, really? This is the grand finale to Samurai Jack? One of the most beautiful and artistic Cartoon Network shows I've ever seen. And it ends with the power of love saving Ashi. It's cheesy, it's cliche, and it feels like such a cop-out. So after that, Jack realizes that Ashi has Aku's powers and thus can bring him back to the past. Ashi grabs Jack's sword and they go back. I know it seems like I breezed by that part, but that's actually how it's paced in the episode itself. It feels way too quick, and because of that, we don't actually get to see Jack say goodbye to any of his friends. Much like the rest of this episode, it's very unsatisfying. So they get back to the past, and Jack just kind of kills Aku. Yeah, the big grand fight between Jack and Aku, it just kinda happens in like half a minute, and Aku doesn't even put up a fight. Seriously, how lame is that? It's supposed to be treated like this big climax, but it just feels pathetic. So after Aku was killed, Ashi kneels down in agony and claims that she felt Aku leave her. Which, okay, that wouldn't have been a perfect explanation as to how Ashi's still alive, but I would have bought that. But instead... well... So a few months later, and it's Jack and Ashi's wedding day. But before they can get married, Ashi faints and exclaims to Jack that without Aku, she wouldn't be alive, and then she disappears. Excuse me, what? So you're telling me that Ashi died literally months after Aku was killed? How was she still alive for those few months? What kept her alive? She should have instantly died right when Aku died. It's even more infuriating when you realize that they had a perfectly fine reason to keep Ashi alive, and yet they kill her anyways. The only reason why they did this was for dramatic effect, and to give Jack the most depressing ending possible, because there's no story explanation as to how it would happen like this. Personally, if I were to write the series finale to Samurai Jack, I would have had Jack die. No, really, have Jack die in his final battle with Aku. Then he can live on as a hero. That's the type of ending that Samurai Jack deserves. Or, as an alternative, you could have Jack realize that the past is the past, and just kill Aku in the future, and let go of the past. That way you can eliminate the problem of him not saying goodbye to his friends, but still give him a sort of bittersweet ending. Either one of these endings would have been a lot better than what we actually got. I also would have made this episode double length. That way we can spend more time on Ashi gaining control of herself again, Jack saying goodbye to his friends, and especially the final battle with Aku, because as it is, this finale feels very rushed. At the very least, I do like the final shot of Jack standing next to that tree. It's a very nice looking shot, and does a great job capping off the series, though that doesn't save what is otherwise a terrible, terrible finale. You know what upsets me the most about this finale? the impact it had on the rest of the series. Today, I could have been talking to you guys about how great this show is, its storytelling, its visuals, its atmosphere, but instead, I'm talking to you guys about its pathetic excuse for a finale. And don't get me wrong, I do plan on rectifying this in the future, but that's what a finale can do to you. It can severely impact your views on the series as a whole. I mean, just look at Adventure Time. I don't think Adventure Time is a better show than Samurai Jack. I personally like Adventure Time more, but in terms of actual quality, I'd say they're about on the same level. However, I remember Adventure Time more fondly because even though it has its fair share of bad episodes, it had a very strong finale. Come Along With Me gave me just about everything I could have wanted out of an Adventure Time finale. It does an excellent job wrapping up the series, it's emotional, it's surprising, it's creative, it has great comedy, it's suspenseful, it has a great use of fan service, and overall, it reminds me why I fell in love with the series in the first place. Or heck, what about the Star vs. finale? That finale ain't perfect, by any means. There are definitely story problems there, but in terms of wrapping up the series emotionally, and making me feel like I'm watching a grand finale and an ending to these characters, it was very successful. This frame alone of Star and Marco staring at each other gives me more emotion and feels like a better finale than the entirety of the Samurai Jack finale, and that's sad. But thankfully, there's still hope. About a month ago, Gennady Tartakovsky premiered his new show on Adult Swim called Primal, and honestly, it's fantastic. Everything from the visuals, to the storytelling, to the action, to the use of silence, to the atmosphere, is a step above Samurai Jack. But what this means is that Gennady now has the chance to give Primal the finale that Samurai Jack deserved. But we'll just have to wait and see about that. Kirby, out.